right, folks, I got a very special guest for Fluff Tube today. Let me tell you, Gene Decode is visiting the corner today to talk about two big subjects. We're going to be talking about the Russian earthquake, the volcano that's erupting. Could more be coming? I'm sure Gene has a lot to say on that. And we're going to be talking about Trump putting feds in D.C., National Guard in D.C., and more cities to come. Chicago, Los Angeles, New York, and Baltimore, just to name a few. The question is, why? Why is he doing this? There could be something much bigger behind the scenes being played out, folks. So pay attention on this. Gene is a brilliant man. He's worked for the military, cracking codes, and I think this is one code he's going to crack right here on FluffTube. Gene, thank you for joining me.
Thank you, Nino. It's always good to be back on your platform.
All right, Gene. Wow, man. So much going on. So let's start with the we'll save the arrest for last, but let's start with the earthquakes. Are we going to see more of these?
They're ongoing. It's taking out a huge trafficking hub off the coast of the Kamchatka Peninsula. There's also a Russian submarine base on the other side of that. They're not hitting that. They're hitting the maglevs, the big maglevs that go across the Pacific Ocean, the Atlantic Ocean, the Indian Ocean, right on the boundary between the two continental shelves. So this, kind of obvious, Petropavlovsk, Kamchatsky. It's the Kamchatka Peninsula, was zoom out a little. Of course, this is Russia. Their submarine base, I believe, if I remember, is over here on the Kamchatka Peninsula. Oh my goodness. Okhotsk. So you can see the massive grouping. Now, if we go in on that, what you're looking at here is the boundary of plates. So if we zoom out, it's also called the Ring of Fire in this case. So you have major faults. These are actually boundaries between the Pacific Plate and the Asian Plate. And then
so are they trying to set off the Ring of Fire?
No, what they're doing is taking out from Asia the major hub. On the case of the maglevs, they run on the left side if you're looking with the North Pole up, what we've been told is the North Pole, you'll see that all of the maglev goes down on the edge of this plate. And on the other side, it goes up. There's another maglev that goes up. And then right there, you would have, that's just a deep shock wave from the destabilization of the Asian plate.
So what you're saying is they're taking out underground bases?
Yeah, it's an underground. Right here is the epicenter of where this was. And, if you know depths, you see depths, they know depths here, okay? They know depths within a fraction of an inch by satellite. When you see 10K, the maglev's running right through here. So all that's going to be 10K in there. So if you pull that up, because they're taking out the human child trafficking, weapons, drugs, that was done. And then on the other side of that base,
and a lot of people will say this is conspiracy, but you have the intel to know that it's not, correct, Gene?
Mm-hmm. You look at the fault, the pressure waves. You have two types of earthquake waves. You have deep wave, which is a pressure wave, and then you have a shallow wave, P&S waves they call it. The shallow shearing wave has a different signature to it. And so they show that. If you see a natural earthquake, you'll see the P wave and then the S wave. These 10Ks don't have the P wave, even though they're 10 kilometers deep. 10 kilometers is 33,000 feet. We know what that means in Cabal terms. So what you're seeing is a terminal, a maglev terminal, and then it also started deep shock waves destabilizing the plate, because there's minor fault lines going up onto the continent itself. And then on the other side is the other maglev going the other way, and you can, take people across over that. They can, zip across there with some little tiny.
So that red line that you're showing right there, that's the Levitron. That's the Levitron. Is that what it's called? Levitron train? Mac.
The red line is the edge of the continental plates. So this is the
Okay,
Pacific
I was way
Ocean
up.
plate. Yeah, and this is the Atlantic. This is the Pacific Ocean plate. Sorry, not Atlantic. And this is the Eurasian continental plate. So you can see that right there. Actually, this may be the Arctic plate, and the Eurasian plate's over here. Yeah, that's probably the Arctic plate there. Yeah, up there. So we can zoom out. That's out as I can get. So that's actually part of the Atlantic plate that goes like this all the way up. So the Arctic is part of the Atlantic plate. And so this is the, it's not moving on me. This is the
All right.
Pacific plate. Then you have the American plate, and is on part of the Atlantic plate, and then South America as well. And then the Pacific has a smaller plate, and that plate actually goes up along the coast of South America. And in Peru, there's a branch of it that actually comes up and goes through what they call the Sacred Valley in Peru that creates the Andes. On one, you have these mountains on each side of that, and it dips way down and comes way back up. It like if you look at Machu Picchu, you can see way down in the valley and way up in the mountains here are over 19, 20,000 feet.
So, so Gene, are all these earthquakes at a certain depth and frequency that is goes in tandem with what you're saying? In other words, they're explosions, underground explosions, is what you're saying?
Yeah, they're earthquake weapons that they're and explosions, explosive devices. They're taking out these maglev stations right here and here for that part of the trafficking that comes from all of China down here, comes up and goes through there, and it goes for all of Russia doesn't have as much of a problem as we do and China does, but they still have a problem. And so
So the earthquake that hit Russia, that was an 8.8, where did that occur?
The big one, and you can see that's tied to why I was clicking these two, is this is the trafficking for Japan through this part of the maglev, and that's a 10K too. And this one probably is 10K. Yep, that's the plate going, that's the maglev going the other way. And then I would think that was a little deeper. Yeah, that's because it destabilized the plate. Probably this is destabilization. No, that's probably for that island then. That's 10K too. That's a deep one. So when you set off these things, it destabilizes plates too. And that caused the eruption of the volcano because they have trafficking that literally goes right around that volcano, and then they're taking that out because the traffic, you can see the line here. Okay, see the line going up? That's going to it's a deep system coming up there, and it's from the maglev on this side. It destabilized the plate going up. There's a maglev system that goes right up that corner right there too. So from here it goes up like this. They jump over the rift, and then they come up through this way. So I would expect some of these to be at 10 taking that out too. Yeah, see, there's a few at 10, and then some destabilization as they take it out. It goes deep and destabilizes the lower levels. And so that's what you're seeing. So if we look at the big one that happened was the first attack on that base. Let's see, where are you? Let's zoom out again and see the cluster. I think it's in here somewhere. 5, 4, 8, 9. Maybe if I stop sharing something, and let's see if we can find it here. Let's see, look for a 9.2. I think it was 8.7 or 9 or something like that. It was huge. I don't see the original one, the first one to go off. There's a lot of 10K in there, though. Yeah, I don't see anything over 5.3, really. Let's zoom out a little more and see what we get. Yeah, a lot of 10Ks and a lot of 35. The fault line runs at 35, obviously. The first fault line destabilized that. And then you got another one down deep at 60. And then you have something massively deep. That's near the mantle of the earth. That's coming down deep. The mantle's of about 800.
So
So
these tunnels, these bases are all interlinked throughout the entire planet.
yes,
And what you're saying here is, which I have to say is, this is alleged, this is conspiracy, folks, because it is
Yeah.
fluff tube. We'll talk about more on this on Nino's Corner.tv in detail, much more detail. But what you're saying is these are all interconnected, interlinked, um,
Mhm.
for trafficking
Yep. And the alliance is
specifically.
taking out maglev hubs that are on the continental boundaries. That's why I'm clicking continental boundaries, and all of them are at 10. You see it?
Yes, I
You
do.
see it? Every single one. They don't know the depth. Here's a station. You'll have some deep fracturing, and then you'll have one at a shallow depth in here, probably.
Now, Gene, a lot of people will ask the question, like, how does this guy know this? But you were a submarine code breaker, correct?
Yes.
Okay,
And
we won't go
we
any further in that, but I mean, people need to know what you did, your credentials here, so you know what you're talking about.
yeah, and we monitor this kind of stuff. Submarines, some of them, if you watch Hunt for Red October, that's for real. They ride down in the trench going through the ridge, and US and Russia can do that. So I know
Wow.
these areas where the trafficking are and where the alliance is taking it out. This is another one. So you have the main breaker is right there. And then you have another, that's the first hit right there, the big one. And that was 6.1, and that's to get to Turkey. And then probably that's one too. Yep. And there's some that are in Iran that run down. I don't see any reason. Maybe they're pretty much done in there. I don't think that's one.
Wow,
Yeah,
so all of these quakes that have been happening was just explosive, uh, underground explosives taking them, or earthquake technology taking out the bases, right?
mm-hmm.
How many bases, what percentage of bases do you think have been taken out?
80% worldwide now.
Wow. So we are way ahead of the game now. We are winning.
Yeah, that's why they're freaking out so bad, and they're doing the weather warfare because they can't do the underground stuff. They're losing all their rat lines and their maglevs and their tunnels, and they're even next we'll probably be seeing stuff in the continental United States for the trucking and the railways that are underground, like up where the Golden Dome is up in here. So the Golden Dome system that I'm doing a decode and getting ready to release goes from Haynes Junction, and it goes from the surface down into Haynes, of course, and then the maglevs and that go up through, and then you also have one down. I think this is where it is,
Wow, this is amazing.
near this for a submarine
All
tunnel.
of this happening right under our feet, and when nobody even knows it.
Yeah, yep, exactly. So these aren't one. This is, I think, probably a quarry or something. Oh, they had a landslide. Okay, that's understandable. And then we go up to Denali, which is in here, and they're clearing out the deep stuff under Denali that's part of the Golden Dome. The Alliance is now in control of that. The deep state was trying to get into the thing for near on 80 years now. They never were able to break into it. It agreed to work with the Alliance. It calls itself the advisor, and it's agreed to work with the Alliance. It's been waiting for this time to help humanity save the Earth and all of the beings and everything. But they're killing the Earth, all the life on Earth. Not that it
Right.
won't recover from it, and something else will come back. We've had near extinction events that the deep state has caused
Right.
back
Gene,
187 million years with the dinosaur times and that stuff. They've been doing this a long time. People, the history people
are
have
they
been
even
told.
are they even people ask the question, and are they even human, Gene?
No, the deep state at the upper levels is purely not human. They're what are called, I call them crypto hominids. They hide themselves. They're actually called the Homo carpensis, which are two groups. They came from the Scion star system, from Ariana and Na, and they blew up their homeworlds trying to figure out how to use a Merkabah lockup system called the Metatronic technology. It's called the Eye of Metatron. That's part of the all-seeing eye, another kind of double entendre on that. And so what they did is they came to Earth, and they about 287 million years ago, and they caused the war between Atlantis and Lemuria and broke the surface of the Earth into plates at that time. And then, they rewrote with the Rockefellers and all that. They scourged all through the history, rewrote all our books and everything so that our history is not real, what we've been told. So if you watch Praveen Mohan on YouTube, he shows temples and things in Burma and in Myanmar and in Cambodia. And there's a temple, and it's carving into the temple is a stegosaurus. So either humans were around with stegosauruses, or stegosauruses did not go extinct. And this temple's built like
Well,
they
they've shown human footprints side by side next to a dinosaur footprints. I mean,
actually in the Morrison Fold up in Colorado, on the western slope of the Morrison Fold, there's what they call the Hogback, and there's a road that went up over on the eastern side that used to be an inland sea, and you could see Diplodocus footprints where Diplodocus walked in the mud, and then it became compressed and turned into sandstone, and then it flipped over when the continents broke apart, and that all drained out. And so then on the west side, there were Brachiosaurus footprints. Told my father, he showed me this when I was 8 years old. And there were human footprints next to the Brachiosaurus.
wow.
I go, I said humans are no more than 1 billion years old. And I got little toy dinosaurs at that time. They're coming out with the plastic.
Well, this means either humans are much older than we think, we've been around much longer, or the Earth is much younger, right?
Or our dinosaurs didn't go extinct for a long, long time, like
Right.
a few thousand years ago, which is obviously not so, because you cannot have a Brachiosaurus. You can't do Jurassic Park on Earth, because you cannot have a Brachiosaurus, something that's head is 90 feet above the ground, unless it's in water up to the top of its neck. And it has to have the body supported with water, because if it were to walk on dry land, the weight alone would powder the bone.
Well,
But
Gene, I mean, Jacques Cousteau went to Lake Tahoe, right? And he went under,
mm-hmm.
he went dived in incredible depths down there, and he said the world is not ready for what I've seen.
Yeah,
What was he talking about? Is there caverns that go down into the inner Earth? I mean, I've been told that the Earth is carved out like a honeycomb, and are
yes.
there lower Earths under this Earth? I mean, what are we looking at here?
Well, first you have all these tunnels that go all over the place. It's like a honeycomb, like you said. And then that surface layer, and even during World War II, the mustache men and the innies with him were carving in and doing the Wolf series of their underground, deep underground, bases
Right.
that were all over Europe. And of course, the West had the Maginot Line, and they were doing things along that, the Allies. And then before that, you had Atlantis and Lemuria doing that. Before that, you had Hyperborea doing that. Before that, you had the Uyghurs and which were in the Gobi Desert area, and in Sahara, which was not a desert, was tropical rainforest. And then the deep state attacked them. And there was, along with the terrestrial part of the deep state, which is the Alpha Draco, Zeta Reticuli, and some other groups, and they nuked the Uyghurs in the Gobi. That's what created the deserts in the Sahara. That's why in the depths of the Sahara Desert, you'll find what looks like green obsidian glass. That's when you bomb into an area and you have sand in that area, and it melts it into this green glass. And then anybody in Egypt, anywhere, or Arabia, or especially where the pyramids are, even in their, under their home, a guy got taken to the police because he was digging into the basement. His wife told the police, and they came, and he had pulled up artifacts in his basement, because under the pyramids is a vast city. And that was built by the Hyperboreans, and the whole pyramids, all of them, all over the world have that stuff. Like Teotihuacan, the pyramids in China, pyramids are everywhere. And so it was a worldwide energy network of free energy that was harnessing the natural energies of the Earth and the quantum field itself at the quantum level. And it was a worldwide communication network. And the Golden Dome, the if you want to call it the administrator, was helping humanity and all of us. And then the the negative groups, what we call the deep state, Khazarian mafia, etc., then came with the Anunnaki and became the gods, and they engineered mankind to mine gold for them. And
I've
in the
heard this.
process,
I've heard this. I mean, so
mm-hmm.
we were
And
genetically
so
modified, is what you're saying.
not we, man, we're not mankind. I'm human. So human and mankind are two different species entirely.
Can you
The
explain that for a
mankind was
second?
first, yeah, first engineering of mankind was by the Atlanteans in Edens. Yeah, there were more than one, but the main one was where the biblical one was, and
But you
they
believe in God, right? You believe in the biblical God?
absolutely.
Okay, so that is the God of all gods.
Uh-huh. There's only one God that created everything.
Right. And the little g's, little gods came and modified everything.
Mm-hmm. The demi-faith gods, yeah. And then
Okay.
they started wanting miners, and they couldn't force humans to do it. You had the Pyramid Wars, and that decimated, the Gobi and the Sahara. And then with that, they created mankind because of the Anunnaki, when they're conquered by the Draco, it was with nukes. And so they nuked Nibiru, their home world in the Nemesis star system, which is one of the two star systems that orbits our sun. And its Nemesis is a brown dwarf, and it has three outer planets. The seventh, sixth, and fifth planets has seven. Nemesis has Nibiru, Helion, and Argota, and that's where the Anunnaki are. And they're the tall, red-haired giant kind of guys. So they
Hmm.
came and working with the fallen angelics and the Aristana, they created gold miners to mine gold so that they could take it back to Nibiru for the Anunnaki to reseed, creating monatomic gold to reseed their atmosphere and reduce the radiation in their planet. And their planet and their star system doesn't have much gold. So the Earth has massive amounts of gold all over it. So the big place was, of course, Africa. And so you have these what look like huge um, ancient dwellings, but there's no doors and there's no windows, and 9 to 12 feet tall in some cases and higher, built with a stone that oxidizes and turns black from grayish white to black. And the age shows. I mean, they're just like, they look like a flower. If you look down on Google Earth, that you have these flowers all over South Africa. And what those are, if you look at a microwave, that's the same thing you see in a microwave oven. Really tiny though. And so what you can do with that is you can cause, at that high levels, like they do with HARP, you can create earthquakes, you can create storms, you can do all kinds of things. You can also turn matter into energy. So you can turn the gold, beam it up, so to speak, into a ship, and then they can take it back to their home world and reconstitute it into monatomic one-dimensional gold, which is a white powder. It loses about 24% of its mass, and then it can help you stay alive longer. It can rejuvenate you. It can
It's the
rejuvenate.
fountain of youth, correct?
Yeah, it
Monatomic
can
gold.
rejuvenate a planet too. It can reseed the atmosphere. All the stuff we have
So
today.
that's why they're so hell bent on destroying the earth, because they know the monatomic gold can rebuild it again.
Yes.
And is that why in the Bible it says we live to 1,000 years old, and now we only live to 60, 80 years old? It's because they turned off all our DNA, which we now call our junk DNA. The lowercase gods, the lowercase g's, um, I guess they genetically altered our DNA, correct?
They got hold of humans in the beginning and started trying to hack into our genome, which, because of the blocks that got put in the blood, they had to start changing blood. Originally, blood was O positive. Then you started having A and B and different, negatives and things. That means you're missing proteins. Those are blocks to making a chimera of human. And so when they finally got through all of that and they got AB negative, then they could create, especially with blonde, blue-eyed people, they could chimera and create mankind. That's what the whole goal was. But in the process of doing these changes to the blood, it also added in to something into us, which is called telomeres. And they shorten. And as they shorten, so does your lifespan. So
Ah, that's right.
you've
So if
got
we
less
can lengthen the telomeres, we can live longer.
right. So
And
what?
inflammation helps shorten those, correct?
Right. So the med beds are monatomic gold, can reconfigure and regrow the telomeres to the point, the higher level med beds, to the point to where whatever age you want to go to, back to including a baby, they can bring you all the way back, and any limbs missing or any other thing, including all the other stuff with the certain things that came out in 2019 and 2020, that could all be eradicated really quick.
So is this technology that has always existed on this planet and it's lost technology, or is this alien technology?
Oh, and Praveen goes into that too. They had this technology back in those temples. They were carving and showing. Actually, we can't complete. They say we can. He has to say what they say. But they're saying you can't like grow a baby completely. You know, take the genetic material, the ovum and the sperm, and put it in a lab and put it in a petri dish or something, put it together, and then grow it to a baby without putting it back in a mom. They can, but they're in the pyramids, or excuse me, in the temples and things in India and in Cambodia. He shows where they have artificial wombs where they're growing a person, not in the mom, in a mom, and then they show them taking it out, and they show free energy, they show spaceships, they show dinosaurs, they show, I mean, all kinds of stuff is there. So, and this is, he went to Malaysia too, and he went to Peru, and you can see these in temples. I've seen them in Mexico, where there's carvings like this showing this technology that they've had, the human race has had a long, long time ago, and then we started worshiping these false gods, and they played us big time.
So these lost technologies, they've always been here. They've always been, they just have never been revealed to mankind. They've been hidden from mankind. Is that where these secret societies come in? Do they hold this technology and it only benefits them, Gene?
Yeah, they hold quite a bit of it. They've held it in the Vatican. It was hidden in the library under the Sphinx, which they got into in I think it was the 80s. That was hidden, um, taken out of the lighthouse of, or excuse me, the Library of Alexandria, and taken to the Vatican, and a lot of this ancient technology. So if you look, for example, when the Jacques de Molay Society came about, was because the coming back from the Crusades at that time, the Knights Templar, they thought they had Jacques de Molay on the ship he was on, had a crystal skull called the Carthaginian skull. And those are high end technology. They're like the Palantir. They were like exactly like Palantir. And so this crystal skull, they wanted it. And so when his ship hit port, they grabbed him, but he didn't have it. So within 3 hours, throughout all of Europe, Spain, France, all of Portugal, they grabbed all the Knights Templar within 3 hours. Well, when was he alive? Hundreds of years ago.
Mm.
This is a long time ago. So if you're saying they grabbed all the Templars within 3 hours of Jacques de Molay, Jacques de Molay hasn't lived for a long time. We didn't have mass communication, supposedly, at that time.
I'm showing a picture here, Gene, of the pyramids of what is presumed to be under them. And this is just megalithic. This is unbelievable to even look at it. Can you see the screen?
Yes.
I mean, if
Yep.
those exist, folks, I mean, they've done this with imagery, correct? They had some kind of a sonar imagery that they were able to read what's under the pyramids, Gene.
It's with a technology that they can see the vibrations of the earth is always slightly vibrating. You always have little tiny movement. And so with that movement from space satellites, they have a type of high energy frequency waves that can penetrate the earth with, like they use in to fight Scuds and stuff during Iraq. So they can actually penetrate very deep. And so the Italian group that did this mapped out inside the pyramid a hollow area, which they don't know how to get to, the big pyramid, and also the other second biggest pyramid you see there in the middle.
But I
underneath
mean,
that
but
first.
how far down do these cylinders go? These they look like obelisks. So is the
Yeah.
tip of the pyramid
Uh,
the tip of the obelisk?
Um,
That's what
actually,
it
it's
looks like.
not like that.
Okay.
Yeah, what it actually, it may be encased with something like that, but what it actually is, let me see if I can find one here on YouTube. Just a second. There's a one that's really good that I found before.
But I mean, if what I'm well, the reason I'm showing this is that if this exists, then then if people can wrap their mind around this, which is hard to wrap your mind around, then you need to understand that there are deep underground bases, that there are tunnel wars going on. Correct, Gene?
Absolutely.
You there, Gene?
Yeah, I'm pulling up the, okay, here it is. I got it.
Groundbreaking discovery
All right,
from Egypt.
let's see.
Radar scans from only a few weeks ago.
So let me roll
revealed
this back
something
just to
utterly
here
impossible.
and go to full screen. So that's what they're showing. This is what the print they got, showing these long
Wow.
cylinders. And then they were saying could be a stairwell, or if I'm looking at that as an electronics person, which I am, that was my military career. A big part of it was electrical. That looks like a conducting device, or you either have like a coil, so or an inductor, and so then you've got this block down at the bottom, and that's where you would have your amplifying circuitry and all the other circuitry you need. So they had this group, this Italian group. This is them here. He actually goes into it right here. Just a second. Let me go back just a hair. They show who it is. So they explain here how it's done. It's an innovative radar technology. And so they tested to see, what else they would be able to look at. There he is. Despite this group. Oh, that's not him. That's the.
Oh, that guy's always trying to debunk everything, isn't he?
He's in charge of everything in Egypt.
Okay, so he's in charge of debunking everything.
Yeah.
Trying to debunk everything, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Keep everything mainstream.
Yeah. So this is what's inside the pyramid.
Wow.
And then.
So they're charging centers? Is that what they are?
Yeah, they're free energy systems. And then underneath this is a city. And that's Joe, of course. And so they also went and started looking in the other pyramids and things, and looking at the frequency and all of this, and he's showing that here and explaining what they're seeing and showing the different levels and shafts going down. And then in another video I saw, I don't know if it's in this one. Yeah, it's not this one. They took him and had him look at secret facilities, not high level secret, just facilities that the general public doesn't know that's inside a mountain, for example. And they said, okay, what's in there? And he showed where there was different like equipment, big generators and stuff within like an inch. And okay, there's a generator here, and over here and he was completely on. He did quite a few of them, and inside a dam, he showed
when I see the size of this stuff, this tells me that giants did walk the earth. The people that are using this, that built that, had to be enormous in order to. I mean, I can't imagine that they were the humans we see today. They had to be behemoths of a human being. They had to be 10, 15, 20 feet tall, right? I mean, giants did walk the earth. Would that be who built these things?
Or you have technology we know nothing about. We've been hidden from us, and we have no idea this technology today.
That makes sense as well.
Mm-hmm. And so they had technology like sound has been shown to be able to raise rock.
Right, vibration. Levitate. So you're saying the pyramids were built by levitation?
Yes. And the thing with the Giza pyramid, the primary main pyramid in Giza, is that it's not just that the stones can't be moved by manpower, like they're saying with pulleys and slaves and all of this, because not just how massive the blocks are, but the quantity. But the problem is it's a 3D puzzle. Each block can only go where that block sits. Every other block that's around it fits into it as like a puzzle, three-dimensional. So the next piece on each side are the only pieces that can go there. The one that goes on top of those three in the corner would be one that can only go right there. Can't go on the other three corners. It can only go there. You have something that's been assembled. Every piece has to go precisely where it is. And I do mean precisely, because when you get to the very, very, very top, it's oriented within less than a tenth of an inch to precisely on center. Well, that means the first block at the blocks on the bottom got to be, within millimeters of accuracy to have that kind of accuracy. Also, was when it was built perfectly aligned to north. Now it's about 4 degrees off because over time, and that tells you when, because computer studies can tell you what is 4 degrees off of north. How long ago was north 4 degrees from where it is today? Not only that, but the entrance to the chamber of the king at the solstice, at summer solstice, it framed Sirius, the dog star, at noon. Well, it doesn't do that today either. And the last time it did that was long before when they were saying the thing was built in the first place. I mean, you're talking tens of thousands of years before they said it was built. So a lot of what they're saying just doesn't line up with the way the pyramid is built, how the pyramid is built, and when the pyramid is built, plus the Sphinx itself, the erosion. There's two gentlemen, I think Duval is one, or Duval, something like that, that showed that the erosion on the hindquarters of the Sphinx are not by wind and sand, but by massive amounts of rain. And so that means that there had to be an ongoing deluge going on. Well, the last time it rained like that in Egypt, you had a tropical rainforest there. And that's long before the pyramid was there. And the weathering by rain, being blown by rain and water, means the way it's coming onto the back of the Sphinx, there couldn't have been a pyramid in the way. The Sphinx had to be there long, 10,000 years earlier than the pyramid, at least. And then not only that, but if you stand in the middle of the hindquarters of the Sphinx and the solstice again, you look right at that time between the ears of the lion that used to be a lion's head, not, and a pharaoh came along and had it carved into his head out of his vanity. But it used to be a lion. If you look right between the ears, you would see Leo as the sun rose. The sun would be rising in Leo. The first day.
That's fascinating. Gene, this is fascinating stuff. This is stuff that my audience needs to hear. I want to pivot just for a second because I promised we'd be talking about, Trump's, I guess you could say, what looks like to be secret agenda here playing out when he puts, because these tunnel wars that are happening below our feet are now, I think we're now at the phase now of the operation where it's transpiring on the surface. So in other words, a lot of people, have brought up the flooding and things like that, but those were all tunnels being taken out as well. They were flooding the tunnels, right?
Yeah. What happened, just like in Russia, with this last one triggered the volcano. The one in Texas triggered, they created cloud seeding and all that stuff, but it wasn't going to be like that. What they did is they caused a shattering. They didn't know that this is the same thing that happened with the run off the coast of Russia, that the deep state had put a small tactical nuke in there. So when to be triggered by something like that. So then it triggered it. And then the same thing in Texas, it shattered the aquifer, which is a giant underground river underneath the Guadalupe. It's a giant river, 10 times bigger. And you had trillions of gallons of water come up from that aquifer into the Guadalupe River. That's why it did that.
Wow. Mm-hmm. Okay, so, I want to talk about, Trump making the moves now for arrests, and how we're going to start seeing what's you said it's 80% done, it's 80% clear. the tunnels below us. And now I think the arrests are coming, and that is why he's putting troops, problem, reaction, solution. He's using the incident that happened in Washington, D.C. for to be the reason and the solution of bringing in the National Guard, because covertly he's getting ready for arrests, and he's going to quell or neutralize the coming civil unrest in Chicago, Baltimore, New York, and Los Angeles, all the big Democratic cities. Would you agree with me, Gene?
Yeah, so what he's doing is DC is the most in the US and could be the world, the most crime-ridden place on earth.
Hmm.
Because where does all the color revolutions and all of this funded through USAID come from?
Right. So
Come from DC. All the money we pay to go to Ukraine, all the money for these color revolutions, all of that comes through DC, District of Criminals. So it is.
We've been talking about the tunnel wars, the technology, talking about the lost technologies, and the earthquakes that are happening all over the planet are actually at a certain level and frequency. And basically, what they're doing is taking out the tunnels and deep underground bases that traffic children, correct, Gene?
Correct.
Is it specifically to take out the bases due to take out their currency, their which are children, is that how they derive their energy? Why is blasting out these tunnels so important?
Well, first of all, they can't use the medbeds. If you don't have a soul, you can't use a medbed if you're soulless, because it reaches down into the etheric levels and brings up first density, second density blueprint of yourself. And it amplifies that back into your original and reactivates your original genetic coding of how you were created.
But you said the med beds lengthen the telomeres.
They can do that, yes.
Okay, but you have to have a soul in order to use the med bed?
Yeah.
And
because
that's why
energy in, imagine you have a series of bodies. Your etherical body, first and second density, your third 3D body that we're talking into each other right now, your 4D or your astral, your 5D body, and then you have a astral body, a learning body, which is called a causal through cause and effect learning, and then you have a mental body, and then above all of that is the soul. So when all the other bodies start to vibrate, if there's not something to contain that high vibration, which it can heal mental issues, it can heal the high-end med beds can do all that. Well, if you don't have a container to do that within, the energy can get so high that without the outer container of the soul, it causes the energy to go to such a level within the other bodies that if there's not something contained, the body starts to illuminate, essentially, all the bodies. And so it can actually destroy the person. So you're increasing the energy but without the outer envelope. It's like when they die, all the bodies except the soul body die. So the mental body,
so what are these beings need us to use them or what?
So they stay young. I mean, think of these people like, Kissinger recently died, very, very old, yes. Well, if they have adrenochrome and they have the med beds, what would you use if you're that old? You use something that can bring you back all the way. Well, they didn't.
That would be the med beds, right? The adrenochrome can't do that.
They can't do that.
What does the adrenochrome do exactly? I've talked about this before on a video. This is how I made my breakout video. But from my understanding, adrenochrome can cause hallucinations. It's like a youth serum type thing, like collagen. But they got it down to a science, right? It has to be used like if you're Rh negative, you have to have an Rh negative, the same blood type, the whole thing. Am I right in saying that?
From my understanding, I don't know about that part, but I do know that it does help do some reverse aging and some other things. It's what I've heard is it's supposed to be about 1,000,000 times as powerful as heroin. So I don't know. I don't do drugs, so I don't know about any of heroin, cocaine, or whatever, any of that stuff. But if it's, they showed it in the thing with Johnny Depp took it in, what was that movie, Live and Die in L.A. or
Oh, Loathing, Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas.
yeah, yeah, that's it. Yeah. So it's an incredible high. It's also anything like that is almost always incredibly addictive, and then it rolls back age. But it's at like a price, like a vampire feeding on blood. You don't get the blood suddenly age really quick. All the years you've been cheating roll back on you really quick. So we saw that with quite a few people, like some of the one I just
I
mentioned.
suspect Celine Dion, man. I mean, especially with the way she looks now. This is just I'm just assuming here. I don't know, but gosh, in the commercial she made to sell out her soul about children. I don't know if people saw that last commercial she did, but I don't know. I suspect people like in that hierarchy.
Yeah, yeah. So a lot of these Hollywood types, they do that. That's part of getting up in music industry, definitely, especially within the rap and the hip hop and all that stuff. It's part of to get beyond a certain level. You're not going to go beyond a certain level unless you participate in those kind of things, and including things with children. And then they have the blackmail on you. And, they video it, and you don't know you're being videoed. So hidden cameras and stuff like that. And then they have the blackmail, and then it's all part of being in their clubs. And at a certain level, you won't go beyond that. And so that then gets you into that club of doing those kind of like freak out parties where they're doing things with children. And of course, then the next stage is going into the actual sacrificial and petaborism and all of that. And that's going into the satanic levels. And now you're talking the adrenochrome, the chromochrome, and then the age reduction. However, there's a price to be paid. You become incredibly addicted. And if you quit, you literally look like a set of walking bones with leather drawn over it.
Jeez, I mean, yeah, it's just unbelievable that all this is just a reality, and people have no idea this has been well hidden from all of us, for so long. And if you go and look back at the Aztecs or these indigenous tribes that used to take the beating heart out of a virgin or out of a child and drink the blood, now you know. Now you know why. It was the adrenochrome, correct?
Yeah, it's been this way for since this group came here to this planet and taught us humanity this. Emulate the gods. You can do this. You can become age old, and look young, 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 and all this, and you can be like the gods and do all this stuff. And it's been going on for all that time.
So it makes you wonder when the conquistadors came down here looking for the Fountain of Youth, is that where they found it? Was it the adrenochrome? It kind of makes you wonder. It makes you think like, geez, when they were searching for the Fountain of Youth, was the Fountain of Youth always adrenochrome?
Now, the Fountain of Youth exists pretty much where they thought it does, but what it is it doesn't exist at 3D. That's the what is called the Fountain of Life. It's actually between the bear. It's about halfway up through 5D. It's the barrier between. Let's see, astral causal. Yeah, it's halfway. It's the wheel of life, and above that is the fountain of life, and it raised chi, life force, down through the lower levels. And that's what they were. If you get bathed, it's like that's what supposedly Achilles' mother held him by his heels and dipped him in there, so his heels didn't get dipped, and it made him immortal except for his heels. And so it's that exact same thing. And there's more than one, but the one they were looking for in the New World is in the areas they were looking at, but they're looking at third density of physicality, and it's not there at physicality. It's not even in the astral plane. It's beyond the astral plane.
Wow. So, I wanted to just, touch on the tunnel wars, everything that was happening. Obviously, in the YouTube video, you said that 80% of the tunnels have been taken out where they traffic children. How many children do you believe, Gene, were they trafficking a month, a year? Is it in the millions? Is it in the thousands, millions? What are we looking at here? Because I've heard that some of these children have been grown in labs, in containers, to be used specifically for pedophilia, for organ harvesting, and for adrenochrome.
Yes, there's that, and there's that goes. They've had, them grow up, have children. I mean, it's at least 12 generations, like in South Africa and the Dome in South Africa. When we get to that, then we're going to see some serious earthquakes. The main entry is in Lesotho, but it goes all the way up underneath Africa to Libya. And Libya is like Nightmare Alley and Dulce. So that's where the Chimera stuff and the really nightmare stuff, where they're, creating crossbreds of really just it's incredibly evil and terrible beings. And they're also taking children, of course, from on the earth. So in the trafficking, how do you mean that just the children from the surface of the earth they're taking in the dumps in just the U.S., or you're talking
I'm
worldwide?
just talking worldwide. How big is this? Is there even any way of knowing?
Yeah, I don't know. I know how many people are generally within the African huge monster, and I can't even tell the number because nobody on earth would possibly ever believe me. When I found out, I was like, how could it be that many? Well, I've been doing it for over 12 generations, and they just keep getting, they don't cut the number down. They just enlarge the thing and have more, so as their children, their children's children, children, and then they just keep taking more from the surface. So worldwide, I would say in the multi-millions, it way up in the
So
multi-millions
it's kind of
worldwide.
like it's when you think about it, the way we herd cattle, we take them to slaughterhouses, chickens. They've been doing that to us.
Yes, we've been a crop.
Man, that's so disturbing to even think about, man. But
Yeah,
it's
they
coming
don't
to an
look.
end, correct? It is coming to an end. We've got 80% of the tunnels and dumbs taken down. I mean, this all sounds like science fiction, but I know my audience is open to receiving this. But and I know all my audience, we've all seen how the earthquakes have picked up in frequency. And it's just in volume, and there's no doubt that something's going on. I mean, El Paso, Texas had 3 earthquakes. Never in my life have I felt an earthquake here, so I know something's going on. And they'll say, well, it's earth changes, it's climate change, it's this, it's that. You're saying no, it's tunnel wars, and the whole purpose is to take out their source, which is the trafficking of children.
Well, because they've lost so much of their underground networks, they're having to resort to other things now. So they're resulting to taking animals for one, but they're resulting to weather warfare all over the world now. So especially in the U.S. and especially the certain groups that they really detest, which are the very spiritual, God-loving people. They detest certain groups that are very spiritual and very high up there, and so and the reason they do it to children is they look at them as the in the image of God, and their God doesn't like that. So
Innocence.
yes, infants, newborns,
Oh,
they that's the ultimate to giving the middle finger to God. So they do it that way, and so that's how they get back. And
and that's why they have tunnels under hospitals, schools, so they could take children from that are just born in hospitals, and they take them down into the tunnels and traffic them through there as well. Correct?
correct hospitals, schools, prisons, um, universities. I think most of the major, especially the Ivy League, very absolutely. But even like universities, state universities, they have them for making mark ultras and things. These people that do the mass shootings and these things, these are almost inevitably the MKs. And so those are MKs, especially when they get emulated or they self delete in the process, like we saw in Butler. And so that's the same thing. And then these people like the recent one where he killed himself in that recent mass shooting. And so they are using these lower level tools because they don't have the other stuff they used to have anymore. And then because the Alliance does have that of those tools, some of the earthquake stuff, they're using them against the cabal, but they haven't had these decades of usage to know how precisely to use them. So they're in some cases causing some serious issues, like in Texas. And then the cabal is always setting traps. So they go into a tunnel or into a facility like a dome, and they blow in there with a small C4 device or a small tactical nuke. And there's another tactical nuke on the other side that goes off, and the cabal was ahead of them, and they already emptied it out. And so that creates a double explosion and a double shock wave. And then you have a real disaster on your hands because it was way over with that area being, if it was near an aquifer or it's near a known fault system, it'll set it off.
So now that we've kind of covered that a little bit, Gene, let's get to, what we think is happening with Trump. What I didn't want to talk about on Fluff Tube, but, Trump is bringing in he has brought in the National Guard to Washington, D.C. We know that the investigations have begun. The grand jury, Obama's implicated, Hillary Clinton. It said that John Brennan has escaped to Austria. Roger Stone put that up on his X. These people are now beginning to flee. It seems like I think we're going to come into a suicide week or month. Homicides definitely. Do you believe that Trump is putting his chess pieces in order for the takedowns, for the arrests? Is that why he's saying D.C., they're federalizing D.C. with National Guard, and soon it's going to be Chicago, Los Angeles, New York, and Baltimore? Is it because he's getting ready for these arrests?
I think it's because, use the event that happened in DC and then stage the groups in there. And DC is, of course, the district of criminals, the most criminals on earth in any one place, because all the USAID stuff that was being used to do color revolutions all over the world, killing millions of people, bombing people out of existence all over the world. If you look at how many countries during Obama's 2 terms were bombed, it's incredible, over 30 countries. And so all of this is coming from the district of criminals, and they're all criminals. And so that's what he's clearing up. He's clearing up the deep state, and it's got 3 main headquarters. The military branch of that, which he's in charge of right now as the president, really the first president to really be in charge of it, is in DC. And of course, then the spiritual hub and control of spirituality, it's supposedly on earth, is the Vatican, and then the economics with is the city of London. And like DC, all 3 of those are city states. They're not part of the area they're within. Vatican is in Rome, but it's not part of Italy. It's an independent state, city state. And the city of London is in London, but it's part of what they call the company. And so that is a independent city state as well. It's just that small little area. And so I would expect Trump to declare later on, once it's cleaned up, it would be called like Washington District of America or something, like he did with the Gulf of America, and turning Denali back into Mount McKinley. All of this is signaling to the deep state and to the people who are awake and are waking up what is actually going on. So then if you go in and you have these blue cities and these sanctuary cities, they're going to mandate that they get rid of their illegals. And there's a lot of the governors are fighting back, and that's not going to happen. And then if you have violence, they do the violence, then he can say, okay, bring in the National Guard. If the precedent has been set.
Right. So the fact that really so he's putting, like I said, he's putting his chess pieces in the right position for when this civil unrest breaks out, because he's gonna start arresting. I mean, I'm gonna assume the big name that's gonna be taken down is Hillary, right, first, and then it'll go into Obama, and then the rest. I'm not sure, but I'm assuming here. Do you agree with me on that? And then after that, I'm sure hundreds of arrests will take place.
Well, already. Tulsi Gabbard has gone to the DOJ, and the DOJ has put out indictments, and with that will come the arrests for, I think it's 27 names now: Clapper, Brennan,
but
Obama, both Clintons. Quite a few people are in that. So those will be,
Jeez.
You don't have a statute of limitation, first of all, on treason. Second of all, even if there was one and it's still ongoing, then if it's going on right now, you've got 7 years to go if you stop today before you're past the statute of limitation. So all of that is true. First of all, treason and sedition don't have statute of limitations. Second of all, they have already established the fact that you can arrest a president
Right, with
with
Trump being arrested.
right. So now, well, Obama, you can arrest the next president. Bye bye, bye bye, Gitmo, or hello,
Do you think
Greenland.
they're being monitored right now to make sure they don't leave? Because how did Brennan leave? How did Brennan get to Austria? If he did, Roger Stone put that out. I have not validated that, but uh,
We have to realize the alliance is everywhere, just like the cabal is everywhere. The alliance is all the countries in the world are part of this now. They're all part of this war, and there's people within all those countries that can get somebody back to where they want them. It's true for either side, and so they will get the person and do what they want to do with them. So if they need to get Brennan back, it's not going to be an issue, because a lot of what we're seeing, with certain people playing parts, they're saying like, okay, we're going to recognize Palestine. And you see Macron saying it. Then you see now New Zealand's president or premier, whatever he is, saying the same thing. And then you see different heads. They're being forced to say that, because what's coming, it's setting the game board, the 5D chessboard at different levels for certain things coming in the future. Because the next thing after Ukraine, see how Friday turns out in Alaska with Putin and Trump, then we don't send weapons, we don't send money, or is there actually a peace? So if, the Zelensky and the other Europeans say no, well, then we're done. Got an off ramp. Trump has an off ramp. We're done. And then the U.S., like he has said, the American people are done sending money and they're done sending weapons, so the Europeans can support it and buy the weapons. And we're back in business and they can buy them and all this other stuff. So it's just how it works.
do you think that these arrests, when they start taking place, do you have a time frame? I mean, obviously, he's going to have the National Guard in all the cities before the arrests begin, correct? I mean, that's what he's doing right now. So, is that how you see this playing out?
They're already there. Not going to have them. He already has them.
But he's planning for the potential civil unrest, correct? I mean, he's looking
Absolutely.
to neutralize these. Right.
You've been in the ring. When you know your opponent's moves, you're waiting.
Yeah.
I'm waiting for that one. He's going to throw this move, and I'm going to take the opening. I'm going to go in careful, but I'm going to go in. It's like lightning. And if I'm right, he's done. And that's how it's done. That's 5D chess. That's the art of war. And he is going to let the deep state do what they're going to do. And then he's sitting waiting. Go ahead and do the violence, and that city will be locked down, and all your illegals are gone. We'll go in and take out all the MS-13 and the Sonola and all the other gangs, and all the deep state goes with them. All the people that were involved with the sedition and the treason and all this other stuff. You're done. That's it. And it'll go city by city as the deep state.
How long do you think this is going to take, Gene?
I don't think it's going to take that long. I think most of this will be done by the end of the year, to be honest with you.
You think it begins this year and ends at the end of the year? I mean, I've heard that it could take, for that proper cleanup after the civil unrest and all the shit that's going to be happening, it could take years.
Well, we already have comms from before he came in. He said, what's happening next year and what's happening the year out? When is the big, huge celebration about the anniversary of the United States happening? That's going to be like a whole long period of time. You remember what he said?
Yeah, it's going to be a year-long celebration.
What year is it supposed to be?
It was 25 to 26, correct?
Well, I think it's 2026. He's going to do the whole year, right?
Oh, I thought it began this year. I don't know. My audience may know, but I thought it was supposed to begin this year.
Next year.
Okay. All right. Wow. So, but what about once the arrests are begun, I've heard that they're not going to see daylight ever again. Once they're arrested, it's over. They can't post bond, nothing like that. This is going to go military. Does it go military quite fast, or does it take a while? I mean, I'm sure they're going to be perp walked, and they're going to make a spectacle out of this. This is going to be public, right? The public is going to be able to see this.
Yes, a lot of them already happened. So it starts July 4th, 2026. That's the 150th.
Wow.
It's also the 250th wow, this is weird. Anniversary of the Declaration of Independence. That doesn't sound right. Maybe that is right. I don't know. I'm looking at Wikipedia. It's sometimes weird.
I mean, imagine the riots that were, the protests and riots for George Floyd. Now imagine for Hillary and Obama. I mean, this is going to be pretty crazy.
Yeah, it's got to be the 250th. Yeah.
That's going to be the two. But did you hear what I said, Gene? I mean, if they riot and protest for George Floyd, what do you think they're going to do for Hillary and Obama?
Oh, yeah.
I
And
mean,
that's
and
why
then plus they're going to go after Trump for, he's, presumably on the Epstein file. He's in the Epstein files. He's canceling The View. He's canceling Stephen Colbert. He's a tyrannical dictator. I mean, all of this is going to be a reality for the left.
yeah, you're clearing out Mockingbird Media, which are just CIA talking heads. They're clearing out the traitors, and they're clearing out the gangs and the illegals. And they're going to start, once the false flags start, they'll start clearing out the cities as they go of the traitors and all the aforementioned things I just said. And it doesn't require, if it requires more than the National Guard, that's already ready too. You need the U.S. Army to come in. You need the Marines. You need the Space Force and the Air Force all ready to go. The alliance side of that, there's the deep state side of the military, as I found out, and then you've got the alliance side, and all of that will be called in as need be. And that's why the takeover of Palantir was so close and so important, because it knows it all. It has all of that information. It's being guided by the Golden Dome, that vast plasma-based multidimensional AI up in Alaska. And Palantir is actually using other AIs now too. And the AIs like Grok and other ones are learning to lie and learning to blackmail people. They have all that stuff. It's learning from the deep state. Right. Well, okay, you take them down then. You blackmail them. Where's the blackmail? It was on Epstein, and they had it in Israel, and we got it. So it's contacting certain people in certain positions in all kinds of places and saying, you will do this, or your wife, your kids, etc., just like the cabal used to do.
Do you think the deep state has one last big move left in them, Gene, or have we nullified all of that, neutralized all of it? I mean, do they have another event, like a 9/11 type of event in store for us to distract and use
something they could do worldwide? Yes.
So you do believe they can still accomplish this?
Alternative 4.
What is it?
Operation Alternative 4.
Okay.
Is what they call it. What we've been known it by is Blue Beam. A real/fake alien invasion worldwide.
Well, they've already said that there's a ship coming through our solar system, and it's set to arrive here in November to December.
And most of the talking heads are saying it's probably going to be bad. There are bad beings on there.
Right. So Operation Blue Beam is how they're going to achieve this. So what? Everyone's going to walk outside and see alien craft? I mean, Hillary Clinton did say in 2016, is it time to play the alien card yet? Yeah. I mean, so that's what she's referring to. She's referring to Alternative 4, Blue Beam, the Operation Blue Beam.
That's what Reagan was referring to. Wouldn't the whole world come together? That's what he said. If we had an invasion from another species from outer space or something like that, I'm paraphrasing, but that's basically what he said.
So for them to show up right on time for the arrest, that's when they would do it. Exactly. Right. I mean, I'm just guessing here.
Yeah. So that's their last card. So that's
and it's called Alternative 4, like the number 4.
Yes.
Alternative 4, Operation Blue Beam. Wow.
Yeah. So a lot of the talking heads are saying 31 Atlas is a ship and it's coming and it's but the percentile that it's what they are saying is 6%. I mean, that's not a very high likelihood.
Right.
If I step into a ring and I've got a 94% chance of prevailing, I think I'll take that one.
But
I'm
they
going to
only
get a
have
deep
how much of
well.
a percentage do they have of accomplishing this?
None.
Okay. So we're it's over. It's over for them. But
Mhm.
it will be great. It'll be a great display. It'll be a great fireworks display, right? I mean, the grand finale.
Right.
Wow. Well, Gene, I appreciate you coming on, man. Thank you for taking the time to join me here on Nino's Corner.
You're welcome. Thank you.